if you're in the space, and this is what I've seen again in the last year of just being fully dedicated to being in the space, like you meet so many people, and if you're really passionate in it, and that passion is evident to the people you're talking with, people are more than happy to help you.
Welcome to the REI Foundation Podcast, where we cover all the steps and strategies to make your real estate dreams a reality. Now your hosts, Jason and Peely.
Hi, everybody, and welcome again to the REI Foundation Podcast with Jason and Peely. Today we have Andrew Campbell. Welcome, Andrew.
Hey, guys. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah. Hey, Andrew. Welcome to the show. We really appreciate you coming on, and just really great to finally chat in person. And we always love to just get a brief background on how you got into real estate.
Yeah, well, no, I'm looking forward to the conversation today. I know we've been chatting kind of virtually for a long time, so looking forward to finally catching up here. My background, I live in Austin, Texas, and I grew up in Austin. Long story short, I got an advertising degree from the University of Texas and was working on, a corporate path on the advertising agency space. I moved back. I was living out of state, moved back to Texas in kind of 2008. And my dad had some health issues. So I kind of came home to help take care of him, and, ended up changing careers a little bit, working more corporate for Dell. And while I was at Dell, two things happened. Number one, I got an MBA, and then kind of the light switch went on. And then I also started buying rental property. So that was like 5 or 6 years ago. We bought our first duplex. I had a friend who was kind of pushing me into it. He was a broker, and he had 5 or 6 duplexes, and had been talking to me about it. And I'd been interested in it for a while, but kind of finally jumped in. And then from there, just really kind of fell in love with it, and to kind of tell people that, it's like crack, and I really got addicted to it. And we bought a duplex, and then a month later we bought a fourplex. And by the end of the year, we bought another fourplex, and kind of scaled that up to, with my brother and I, we have 76 units that we scaled up to in about 4 years.
Oh, it's amazing. So let's talk a little bit about, we'll say, getting off the bench. A lot of people sit in the sideline and they learn, or they're interested in it, but they just can never pull themselves to take action. How did you what pushed you to that first property? What was the driving factor?
Well, it was a couple of things. Like I mentioned, my dad got sick, and it was the reason I moved home. And that was, a big kind of shift just for me, and reevaluating life and kind of where I was headed at the time. When he got sick, I was like 27. So I'd spent 5 years or so, working really hard in the corporate game, and like, hey, I want to climb that ladder. When he got sick, I started reevaluating things. That, hey, I want to get some passive income. I don't necessarily want to follow the path he did, which he was a really successful corporate guy. But a lot of stress came with that, and a lot of just being gone from the family. So that was a big driver, and sort of starting to shift my mentality. I had been interested in real estate for a while. My wife jokes, like, even when we were dating, I had a Millionaire Real Estate Investor. Like, I was just reading that for fun. So that was, several years before I actually dove in and made our first purchase. I think it was a combination of just being ready, kind of having done enough education, and then really having that friend and kind of support system that, here's a property, you can go do this, and I'll help walk you through it. And showing me the numbers, and really having that mentor that I felt like, okay, like I'll do it.
That's
nice.
Great.
Having a mentor is key. We definitely push that here. So would you say your friend was one of your first mentors? Oh,
for sure. And he still is. And, we kind of joke, I made the reference about I tell him all the time, he's my drug dealer, and kind of got me started. And now, the roles have kind of flipped a little bit, as we've kind of evolved and really moved into the bigger, multifamily space, and looking at 150 plus unit deals. He still has his portfolio of kind of small rentals, and still active in kind of brokering those things. But now I'm kind of talking to him more about, investing in these bigger properties and kind of how the benefits and the efficiencies work. And it's kind of funny, but absolutely, he's still, I talk to him regularly. He's definitely one of my mentors to this day.
Nice. Do you have any other mentors you'd like to share? Like, how do your other mentors and this mentor like affect you on a day-to-day basis, and where would you be without them?
Mentors are huge. I mean, I've got a lot of what I'd call mentors. Some of them are just friends that I've had for a long time. Some are professional, some are personal. I think, stepping out, what I've done is stepping out away from my corporate job and kind of being on my own. You've got to surround yourself with people. I'm a social person anyway, but I think having a network and a support group that can kind of walk you through whatever it is you're going through. Hey, I'm not sure about, financing, walk me through these pieces, or I'm not sure about, help me navigate some new market. We're very active in San Antonio, and that's not far from me, but I've got a couple of friends that are down there that are local that really know, the nuances and things that I may not know. So, even those folks I consider, partners and mentors, and it's just critical to success.
Critical to success.
It also breeds a natural competition where each of you want to rise to the top and bring the others with you. So you keep hurdling, but with the same part that you're trying to make the other better. And it's great. So yeah, same thing with us. We've just had partners around us that have really helped us because we see what they've done, and it makes it approachable because we've seen them tackle those goals. So it's easier for us to get off the bench and reach where they are. So that's great stuff. We love it.
Absolutely. I mean, there's the sort of cliched, comment about you're the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most. And I mean, it's said a lot, but it's absolutely true. And I think it's just about constantly sort of up-leveling yourself and challenging yourself to compete with, the folks that you're partnering with. And I mean, one of my things, and we can talk about this some, one of my favorite things about real estate is it's very, very cooperative, and it's much more cooperative than it is competitive. Like if you guys, if we were all looking at a deal, we'd figure out a way to help each other and partner on it more than likely, rather than just turn around and try to cut each other's knees out. And I like that a lot. And I think it's to everybody's benefit to be out talking to one another, to help each other, because it's a small industry, a small community, but everybody wants to help each other succeed, and just about getting a deal done and moving on to the next one.
Yes. Your success is my success.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your business. How has your business evolved now that you rapidly moved from 2 families, 3 families, and now you're buying larger assets? How has your team evolved, and what are you working on currently?
Yeah, I mean, so for my life has changed dramatically since, first buying that first duplex. I mean, that I got into it was, let's learn the business and create some passive income. We managed all the properties ourselves and really wanted to learn just the fundamentals of property management, what made a good tenant, how do you rehab a property, and got into it just really for that passive income. And I had the vision of, I'm going to be at the beach, I'm going to be on the golf course every day. Let's start that clock and accelerate that clock by buying rentals. Here 5 years later, I am now full time into a position, where we're chasing, big multifamily deals. I don't have a corporate job anymore. I tell people, like, I've never worked harder in my life. I've never spent more hours doing it, but I've never had more fun either. So it's one of those.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Excited to get out of bed every day, excited to kind of look at what's on my list, the things I need to get done today. And, it's just so much fun. So it's completely different. My life is than when I started. I'm largely can work from wherever I want. I'm able to take my kids to school, be home when the bus gets, when they get off the bus. Those things that are different than when I was in the corporate world.
That just resonates with me.
Yeah.
I mean, because we talk about freedom a lot, freedom of time, freedom of money. And, when you're younger, you get into this business and you think about having the freedom to go golfing, to go to the beach, to lay on a beach and, drink a Corona. But then freedom becomes having fun in your job, being able to pick up your children, drop them off, go to sports. So that just everything you just said really resonates with me. And I think it resonates with our audience.
And so now as you're building out your team and you're creating more points, are you transitioning or I guess we haven't really touched on this much, but property management, people are always either pro or con. You started with it, really gave you a great foundation. How are you continuing your business?
So on our kind of what I'll call our personal rentals, I've turned that all over to a property manager. I feel like I've learned the business and I learned I don't want to do that as a business. Also, like that's kind of operating here on the side, and really all of my focus is on going and finding good deals in this bigger syndication space. On that side, we're using third-party management there as well, just because I think it helps us scale out our business. I think the the big move I made, over the last year and kind of growing into this space is getting a partner. So, going back to a team and sort of mentors and just surrounding yourself with great people, as we were contemplating the shift from corporate world and kind of having our rental portfolio and it was really my wife kind of pushing me. It's like, you're just miserable in your job. Like, you have to go do this apartment thing. It's all you talk about. You're obsessed with it. You need to go do it. So she kind of pushed me along the way, and I'm super grateful for that. And as we were kind of going through that process and when's the right time to finally quit my job, and take that leap. But I was doing things like this, networking with people, learning, talking to people, and I found a guy that really it just sort of organically happened, where we've partnered and we've got very, very similar interests and mindsets, and then very different skill sets. So we complement each other really well on what we're doing and kind of the day-to-day roles and what both our focus and our interests are on. And that's really allowed us to, I think, grow and scale and really think about this as more of a full-time business than just one or a project or having a couple of projects going.
If someone was looking to jump from their corporate job into just full-time real estate investor, do you have any suggestions on timing? When would be the right time for them to do this, or make their decision a little easier?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a very personal decision, and it comes back to what's your comfort level, what's your financial situation. For us, I had the backstop, if you will, of a decent sized rental portfolio, so we had some passive income coming in. But I also just knew, back to my wife just pushing me. I had to go do this. Yeah, it had to be done because my fire for it, my passion for it was just overwhelming everything else. And I just felt like every day I was going to work, it was taking away from me going to do what I really wanted to do. And since making that transition in the 9 months or so it's just been an exponential return on the time and the energy I've put into the business. We're getting it back tenfold. So I don't think there's ever a bad time to do it. You've got to get comfortable with when you can make that leap. But I will never go back and kind of burn the bridges on my way out. Where this is the new path, and we're going to go do it and be successful. And for all the things we've talked about, and I think really, Pili, that you were talking about being able to kind of integrate your kids in your life. I mean, to me, it really is this just constant intersection and weaving together of life and business and work, and being able to do all that and experience all that and work for yourself. It's so rewarding. And I think if somebody's thinking about doing it and they really have that passion for it, whether it's real estate or anything else, just go try it. You have to go, give yourself the opportunity and give yourself a window, whether it's 6 months or a year, or whatever it is, to just, go do it. Cause I think if you have that much passion about something, you're going to find a way to be successful.
Thank you for that. And congratulations, huge congratulations on taking that leap. That's a big one.
So are you happy not to be managing your own properties anymore?
So happy. So happy.
Well, on that note, can you give our listeners out there some pointers on managing your managers, though? Even when you give it
questions to ask to find the right property manager.
Yeah. So, I think as far as managing your manager, if I look at it again, kind of two separate businesses almost. We've got our small stuff, our duplex, fourplexes. That's really just staying on top of them. And I keep a list of every single unit and when leases are expiring and what rents are at, and kind of stay up on market rents and make sure that they are communicating with me, when leases are coming up, because I already know, but then talking about what's the plan here, and having just an ongoing conversation. At the end of the day, they're my assets and I'm kind of the asset manager. What do we want to be charging for rent? Am I willing to stay a little bit below market because we've got a really good, easy tenant that's been there for a long time? I want to avoid turnover at all costs, particularly in that side of the business. It's a relationship I started a couple of years ago. So we pulled, when we knew we were going to start making this transition, we gave a couple of our properties to a property manager and said, look, we're going to kind of try you out. I've got this portfolio we're going to continue to manage. Here's kind of your opportunity for us to learn a little bit about you and your management style. I think that was really helpful to number one, see if we liked being properties managed by a property manager. At that point we had all the control, and I was a little bit reluctant to give that up, but also to see how they operated as a property manager. There's tons of options, in any city you go to. So really just experimenting and seeing if that was a group that would operate and communicate really in a manner that we wanted to be communicated with.
Nice,
love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you weren't all in. You gave them a little piece, so it wasn't be too hard to pull back if they weren't the right fit. So yeah, advice. That's huge.
Yeah, and I think on both that side and now on the larger side, as we did a pretty thorough evaluation of who did we want to use, we made the decision we were going to do third party management. Just again allow us to scale a little bit more and kind of getting into that bigger space. It's not a profit center for us, and not something we wanted to be building at this point in time. We might in the future. But it was really important to us to find a property management company that understood our business. That in this case it's the repositioning of assets. Where you've got a construction component, you've got kind of just that general busyness and sort of chaos around a lot of unit turns and a lot of exterior work. So we didn't want a property manager that was just used to Class A stabilized assets. We didn't want a property manager that had 30,000 units where we weren't going to register. So we went with a group that had like 5,500 units where they've got plenty of scale and we get efficiencies and they get good pricing, but we still matter. And so those were the two big things we looked for. And we talked with, probably 3 or 4 groups like that we seriously looked at and that I knew of just kind of being in the market, and talked about, what it was going to look like, and talked to some of their other owners and references. Because I think it's really important making sure you've got, that's a huge part of your team. As you talk about building out your team, your property manager is the face of your company, and really, and making sure that they were professional, that they understood your business model, and that they had experience and references in executing that specific model in our specific markets.
That's awesome. So let's talk multifamily. We love it.
Mm-hmm.
You love it. We're psyched. We know you have a deal on the horizon. Talk to us a little bit about what made this a good deal for you, and what you're looking for, and what your strategy is going to be when you take over the property.
Yeah. I'll talk kind of, high level, like what we like about, multifamily at large. I think if you look, kind of take a step back on the macro view, it's where the U.S. is becoming a nation of renters. Feel like we're focused on that Class B space where it's workforce housing, average income of $45,000. That's a big pool of good quality people that are always going to want a place to live. For the most part, it's not folks that are buying homes today, whether they don't want to, and there's an attitudinal shift towards home ownership, or they can't afford to, and there's an economic shift. Either way, there's a large renter pool there. And I don't feel like that's going away, whether the economy, takes a turn for the worse or continues to go well. This group of this pool of residents and tenants, is going to continue to exist. So that's what we like about being in kind of that Class B space. I think location wise, we're obviously focusing in Texas where I am. And there's great fundamentals in the major metro markets. But it's we're buying kind of stuff built in the 80s, which is really good locations in town. They were the outskirts of town in the mid 80s, where now they're phenomenal locations. And so the options are come live in a community that we're going to look at that's relatively infill location, or you can move 15 minutes further out to a more expensive and further out property. So I think that really works for us in our model. Specifically, you referenced that we do have a deal. It's hopefully going to close next Wednesday. We had to get an extension last week, but really excited about it. And I think it checks a lot of those boxes. So it's in San Antonio. It's in a phenomenal location, just surrounded by some new Class A stuff, some really high dense job markets and concentrated in the area. It's got a great story. I'm always leaning on my marketing background and what is the story of the property, and how are we going to position it to residents? How are we going to position it to investors? It's been owned by a TIC for the last 9.5 years. If you know anything about TICs, they typically maintain properties, but they're kind of cheap. They don't want to upgrade them. They're not spending any money and investing in the property. So they've maintained it really well, but they haven't systematically upgraded it. So it's got a lot of good bones, but we can come in and do interior upgrades. We can fix up the amenity center. We can modernize the look of it. It checks all of our boxes. There's easy value add programs we can put in. We're going to add a trash valet. We're going to add some reserved parking, some covered parking, build some private pet yards. I mean, if you look at sort of the list of things you would look at as an operator for sort of easy value adds, we're able to execute 4 or 5 of those strategies here right away.
That's awesome. How do you find that those strategies work? What are you doing to find that this might be a good fit for your property?
Staying on top of the market, it's making sure that these are things that are happening in our area and in our asset class. The trash valet is a great example. As we were touring properties and kind of looking at other deals earlier in the year, we started to see in this kind of class B minus space that there were trash valets already on site. And if the listeners aren't familiar, trash valet, we hire a company, you give you a small trash can every night. You set up your trash outside your front door, and a company comes around and picks it up. So it's a great win-win it's a win-win for us. We're able to it keeps the property clean. The trash is picked up every night for residents. They don't have to leave their apartment, walk, particularly in Texas, walk a quarter mile to the end of the property and
that's great.
In the heat, dump it in the dumpster. But we were seeing that happen in these kind of B- assets. And traditionally it's been sort of a class A amenity. So we said, okay, well, I think this market is ready for that. And so we're now going to implement it. Again, talking with our property manager, they agreed we could do it, that this property would support it. Same thing for pet yards. There are other assets in the area. They've got pet yards. They told us, it's for a 24-foot yard, it's like $75. For a bigger yard, it's $90 a month. So we, constantly having those conversations about how much would we have to spend, what's the ROI, and knowing what's happening, in your market.
So I'm going to take us a little bit of a step back and get a little bit of explanation on everything we're talking about for anybody out there who's just starting into multifamily. So we're talking about pet yards, and we're talking about trash valets, and we're talking about value adds. So why are you implementing these value adds to this property? What's the big reason for that?
So from a macro strategy point of view, we want to create a community that has amenities that appeal to residents. If you think about somebody that has, back to that, the conversation, people aren't moving into homes as much as they were, and there's people this is their home. So we want to give them amenities that makes it feel like home. And a pet yard or a private yard, if you have a pet and you don't want to have to take it around the corner to the pet yard, you're willing to pay for a private space, basically a private little backyard. We can fence off the area. You now have a private backyard, and we can charge you money for it. So it gives you a benefit and an amenity you're willing to pay for as a resident. To us as an owner, it increases the bottom line. And, our business plan is to boost the NOI on the property. Those are good, easy ways to do that. And so when we look for value add strategies, it's where's there a win-win? We talked about the valet trash. It's a win-win. We make a little bit of spread from each resident every month on the service. They don't have to take their trash to the dumpster. Pet yards is another. Reserved parking. If someone's willing to pay $20 to have a reserved parking place right outside their apartment unit, that's a win-win. They get a reserved parking space. Maybe they've got young kids. They don't want to. They always want to know their space is available, and it creates extra income and revenue for us.
And that's the basis of it. It's just to boost your NOI.
Correct. Yeah. Amazing stuff. We love it. Thank you for that. And we run a meetup here in New Jersey. A lot of the response from people who attend is constantly can't find a deal, don't know how to find deals, and horrible time to buy. So how did you find this deal? How'd you get in front of a great deal like this?
So this was a marketed deal. It was fully marketed, and there was a lot of competition. It was a good location, great story, great bones. It came down to, we ran the numbers and knew what we were willing to pay for it. We actually didn't get awarded the deal out of the chute, so it was awarded to somebody else. We were disappointed, and 3 weeks later they called us back and said that buyer's 1031 equity is gone. Went somewhere else. If you're still in, it's yours. And the reason they came back to us and they didn't go back to anybody else was a relationship. So we spend a lot of time. I spend a lot of time building good relationships with our brokers, with the community, with the title insurance guys, just everybody that's operating in our markets. And so I think that's really why they came back to us. I mean, we had good terms and a good fair price, but it was, they knew we would perform, they knew we would close, and we'd been talking with them for a long time. I'd chased several other deals, that hadn't worked out, and just had built that relationship. Like, okay, here it is.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, the networking is huge. Building your team out, and it just shows right there. That's amazing.
It's everything. It's a relationship business more than it is anything else. And if I look at kind of my role compared to my partner, he's in LA and I'm in Austin. We're looking at deals in Texas. Like, my job is being boots on the ground. It's making sure we've got phenomenal relationships, that we're seeing every deal on market and off market, and getting first looks at things. And that just comes down to being professional, always giving feedback, responding when somebody calls you, just being a professional and building that relationship, and then doing the little things that I can do that I'm local, going to lunch, playing golf, whatever it is. Hey, I heard this, did you hear about this deal over here? Well, I heard the sales price was, X, and kind of feeding a different guy information, just being somebody that's knowledgeable about the market and adding value wherever we can.
I want all of our listeners out there, I want you to actually stop, rewind. Well, you can't really rewind, but put that little marker, like about 5 minutes, and listen to Andrew say the word relationship at least 5 times. This is a relationship business. That was a huge value add right there. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we're talking about the market a little bit. There's a lot of talk that we're at a peak of the market. We're at a high point of the market. How do you hedge yourself against being at a point where sooner or later we may or may not have a correction coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, I mean, you got to stay disciplined, and make sure that the deals you look at are deals that work for you, that you're underwriting conservatively, and you're really meaning that. I think everybody says, oh, I underwrite conservatively, but what sort of rent growth assumptions are you putting in? What does your exit cap rate look like? It better be quite a bit higher than what you're going in at. Looking at, and then making sure we're just a volume of deals, going back to, like, I want to make sure we're seeing every possible deal, because, 19 out of 20 are not even going to be of interest. And then the one that is going to be super competitive. We're not going to be the only group looking at it, whether it's marketed or off market. So I think it's really about staying disciplined and just patient.
It's amazing. Thank you. Do you have a point or something that's happened in your business, a learning experience, something that it was possibly a setback, but you learned from, that you could help listeners maybe avoid in their path?
Yeah, I don't know if it's something anybody can avoid. I think it's the again, sort of a cliched statement of failing forward and making sure you learn from things. And my partner and I talk about this a lot. We've got this deal closing. We're super excited about it. And we probably, failed or lost, 4 or 5 deals that we really, really wanted and chased really hard that were good deals. And, we had one that was, again, it came down to a relationship, and we just didn't have a good enough relationship compared with the broker and kind of some of the equity players in the background. It was a huge learning experience. It was a 145 unit deal. We did everything right. We were on the seller call. We were waiting for a call back to basically say, you got awarded the deal, and nobody called us. And at lunchtime the next day, I called them and said, hey, what's going on? And said, oh, well, another group came back and upped their offer. And what had happened was the equity partner of the seller had a relationship with this other group and was feeding them information in the background, and basically told them exactly where they needed to be and what needed to happen. And, it burned us up. And I was I was pissed. I wasn't even frustrated. I was like, this was, I get it, but it's terrible. And really spurred us to kind of continue, all right, we need to go double down. We can't get super frustrated. Got to go build better relationships. And some of that's just done with time. Some of that's just done with experiences together and kind of building more of that track record with them. But that was something that, it was crushing at the time, but really, I think, like, doubled down our resolve and to go find the next deal and make sure that we're not going to get out relationshiped again.
Yeah.
Back to your word.
That's
Yes.
great.
Yes, your word. Your word. That's that is a great lesson. I know that sting. I think all investors know that sting of losing that deal, especially when you find out it's because you didn't have the right relationship.
Yeah.
It just goes to show you never know when you're gonna meet the person who knows the person that you need to know.
Yeah. And then following up on that, right? Like it's not just enough to get introduced to that person. You've got to go follow up and build a relationship with that person. It's just a constant chain and evolution of being out there and talking with people.
And we make it sound like it's tedious, but it's not. That's one of the fun things about this business is that you get to make these relationships. You get to do this. You get to make all these friends in these high level places. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You're so spot on. Like the follow-up is everything. It rarely does the first time you do something, you get the deal. It's the magical deal. It's all about the follow-up. If you're the guy who follows up on a deal that maybe just kind of lingered on for 9-10 months, you're the guy who's going to get the deal down the road at a great price at your price. And that's it. Everything.
Yep. Yeah.
So.
And it's true on the investment side as well. You know, as you think about, as you guys, I'm sure too, are out meeting with investors. Nobody's going to give you money the first time you meet them. I mean, it takes building a relationship. They've got to know and trust you. They want to see your performance and tracker, but all that takes time and follow up and multiple touch points. It's not a phone call and then they send you a check. You know, it's many, many conversations and touch points to really build trust.
Well, let's look a little bit into your future. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
That's such a tough question. Honestly, I have no idea. You know, 5 years ago, I was an advertising guy that just bought my first duplex. So I have no clue. I kind of look at things more in a 12-month, 14-month time frame.
Well, give us 12 months.
Yeah. So, over the course of say now and the end of next year, we've set a goal of buying 1,000 units. And I think when we say that, it's we want the capacity and the capability to be able to execute 1,000 units. If we don't hit 1,000 units, we're not going to be upset because we didn't find 1,000 units that made sense. Back to it is the end of the cycle. We need to be disciplined. But I want to have enough. We want to have the team in place. We want to have the relationships, the equity, that we're seeing enough deals that we could go execute the 5 or 6 deals that it would take for us to get 1,000 units. If we execute that, we'll have another 12-month goal. See where are we at in the market cycle, what's happening, where are our interests. I know I'll be doing this business forever. I know I'll be involved with multifamily real estate for the rest of my life. I don't know what capacity that's going to be. I mean, we've talked about one of the things I like about this business. You could have say 5,000 units with 5 people, right? You don't have to build up a huge corporate infrastructure in order to do that. But you could, and maybe we go and want to have a huge portfolio and build out a company and a property management and a construction wing. I don't know. Conversations we've had, we haven't made any decisions.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Love it.
Goals.
So for a new real estate investor who's just, maybe this is the first thing they've listened to, maybe they just had the idea that they were back when you started thinking about real estate. What's one actual step you can give them that they can do today to start moving the ball and getting into real estate?
I mean, I'd say the preamble to all this would be education. So reading some books or podcasts, getting educated on terms on, what asset class you want to be in, what's your strategy, what's your end goal? Are you trying to create passive income and you want to own single families? You want to do turnkey? You want to be a passive investor in a syndicated deal? Like getting an idea of the landscape, but then it's find a mentor. And picking, somebody that is doing it and that's willing to help you and you can figure out how you can help them. That's going to accelerate and fast forward whatever your goals are. And I think that you've got to start there. Otherwise you'll be sitting on the sidelines forever. Like you got to have a support system there that can help guide you through whatever that step is you're going to go take.
Do you have suggestions for finding a mentor?
I think again, pick what's your area of interest, and what do you want to be doing? And then, start looking around, attend meetups. You guys mentioned y'all have a meetup. That's a great place to find like-minded people. Going on Bigger Pockets is a great way to start to see who's active in the areas you're interested in. And I think it's reaching out to them, following up. It doesn't need to be somebody that you pay money to. It can just be reach out to and figure out how you can add value to them. But I think if you're in the space, and this is what I've seen again in the last year of just being fully dedicated to being in the space, like you meet so many people, and if you're really passionate in it, and that passion is evident to the people you're talking with, people are more than happy to help you.
That's awesome.
Nice. So now I want to dig a little bit into Andrew Campbell, the man. What is your big why?
I mean, we've talked about it a little bit. It's the being able to integrate my life with my work and my family life. When my dad got sick, that was a big moment, kind of reflection for me, and wanting to be able to, be around and help take care of him. We didn't talk about it a couple of years after he got sick. My mom got sick and passed away from cancer. So it's like, I think that's my big why is being flexible in my lifestyle, being able to create the kind of life that, I can be responsive to whatever life's going to throw at you, because, I've seen it can throw things at you that you need to be able to deal with and financially handle and be able to take time off work. But just have the flexibility and time that, if I needed to go drop today and go do something for the next 6 weeks, I could. And that really is what got me into this whole thing and what drives me.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome. What's some words you live by?
Progress is the goal. That's kind of the thing that I've got on my whiteboard and just, tattooed on my forehead, really. Every single day I can get frustrated. I'm like, I don't feel like I'm doing enough, going fast enough. It's like, you know what? I made progress today. I checked one thing, 8 things, whatever it is, off of my to-do list. And I made progress, and that goes across every aspect of life. It's not just work. I made progress today.
That's awesome. Thank you. We could all learn that, because it's sometimes the hard thing is just you miss giving yourself a moment of just, well, you made a lot of progress, especially if you look over the last year, what you've done. So
yeah. And I'm horrible at it, which is, I think, why I replay that so often. I don't stop to celebrate the wins. I don't, pat myself on the back. I'm looking, what's the next deal? What's the next milestone? And you know what? Take a moment. Progress is the goal.
It's awesome.
Nice.
Awesome.
Nice.
If someone want to reach out to you, talk to you about your investment horizon, to hear a little bit more about your company, where's the best way to reach you?
Our company, it's called Wildhorn Capital. The website is www.wildhorncap.com. My email is just andrew@wildhorncap.com. Feel free to reach out to me there. I love talking real estate. I'm a junkie. I'm an addict. So feel free to reach out. I'd love to talk with you.
That's great.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Andrew, for being on our show. It was amazing.
Yeah. No, thank you guys so much. I'm glad we finally got to connect, and look forward to seeing you guys soon.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, this is the REI Foundation podcast with Jason and Peely. Thank you again to Andrew Campbell. And thank you again to everybody out there for listening. We're so grateful for you. Have a good day. Bye now.
We appreciate each of you listening to our show. And if you like what you hear, please go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rated review. 5 stars. And give us some questions on Facebook. We'd love to have your questions answered by our guests on some of our next show. You can find us on Facebook at the REI Foundation Podcast with Jason and Peely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into the REI Foundation Podcast. Check back next time for more awesome tips and strategies to launch your new you in real estate.